What's going on, everyone, and welcome back to this episode of Split Screen D&D, the place where we are attacking all things Dungeons and Dragons from both sides of the screen.
I don't know what I'm doing.
Look at that.
I'm doing something.
My name's Tom Quinn, resident Dungeon Master here at Modern Myth.
And I'm Josh Wyden's resident player character here. And I've been spending too much time with my 2-year-old, man.
I think so. We're going to pretty much jump right into this one. Even though we are attacking all things Dungeons and Dragons from both sides of the screen, we often harp on the D&D ecosystem being richer for all of those TTRPGs and tools and resources that surround it that aren't necessarily D&D. And so today we're going to be talking about some of our favorite resources outside of the world of Dungeons and Dragons, officially speaking.
Absolutely. And I know you definitely dabble in the other TTRPGs. I am not a dabbler, so I'm going to be giving a lot of like where I get inspiration from in whether pop culture or literature or film or books and all that good stuff. So it should be, I'm really excited about this one.
Yeah, I think it's going to be an interesting topic.
Yeah. So I think a good place to start is, especially because I think this bridges between both, is where narratively can we get inspiration from places other than the almighty player handbook / dungeon?
There is one place better to start than that.
Would it be?
That would be talking to all these beautiful people at home to let them know that they're crushing it, absolutely crushing it. Keep on liking, keep on commenting, keep on subscribing. We love it, guys. Well, I guess keep on subscribing. If you haven't subscribed, subscribe. And if you guys sitting around with your respective D&D groups and you think they might be getting something out of Split Screen or anything else we're doing here at Modern Myth, rock that share action over to them. We hugely appreciate it. You want to support everything we're doing directly here at Modern Myth, jump on over to patreon.com/modmyth. But narratively speaking,
Nice transition.
I think it's like I said, I kind of have segmented out in my mind the groups of tools, and narrative is certainly one of them. I think it's actually probably maybe the broadest category when I'm thinking about tools outside of D&D. But I think this one, certainly serves both sides of the screen, but I know there's a lot to be grabbed from literature, film, video games, any of that kind of stuff on the player side, on the character side. So why don't I pitch it over your way and talk with me a little bit about that?
Well, for me, when I create characters, having that archetype in mind when you're creating your personality and all that stuff is so beneficial. You could always be like, what would Luke Skywalker do if my character's based off Luke Skywalker? It gives me some insight.
Get his ass whooped by whatever I have coming his way.
I guess, right? No, he's got the Force, man. He trained on Dagobah with the Muppet.
Listen, I'm not going to throw gasoline on the comments section by giving my piece about Star Wars. We're just going to keep going. Oh,
man, I'm going to bring up Star Trek later. But having that archetype is beyond beneficial. And so where do you look for archetypes? Well, anywhere. I'm reminded of a quote in music where you said there is no such thing as an original song anymore. Right. Everyone has already written all the music. So why try to reinvent the wheel? Find someone from, again, Luke Skywalker, because evidently it rubs you the wrong way.
This Tuesday.
So it's always the right way with me. But like someone from popular film to just graft onto. Now, obviously, change things, right? Because you want to make it a unique character to you.
Don't go to your DM and be like, I want to play Luke Skywalker.
No, I'm gonna call.
By name. I'm being
Duke. I'm like Walker or something like that.
No. I completely agree, and I think that there's some interesting differentiations by way of medium, because obviously in written literature, there's some amazing characters in written literature.
Absolutely,
but there's also a lot to be gleaned by way of mannerisms, by way of accent, by way of if you are in the RP sphere of putting those types of things on when you're at the table, film, video game,
motivations, backstories,
right?
Why are you adventure? Like if you are a slave, well, maybe you're kind of got the Ash from Evil Dead, like you're this badass out of time. Then I was just thank you. Maybe you're like Gurney Halleck from the Dune series, where we were taken by the Harkonnen as a child and have a hatred for whoever. Like, you have all these references you can draw from, and again, definitely make things unique about but having it can be overwhelming.
Yeah,
like I want to, and often what I love about literature is I am not as bright as Tolkien. Like, I'm not as good as him. And so I can kind of like steal his ideas and pass it off as my own and like bring that to the table and which enriches the entire table.
Right. Well, and like you said, I think some people do have kind of they want the sense that this was something that completely came off the top of their head. I mean, their head is filled with every narrative, every epic, every hero, every antagonist, every protagonist that they have consumed throughout their lifetime. I mean, to your point about music, you know, I think in a lot of cases on the player side, well, on both too. There's I think something that runs congruent with this on the DM side, but that it's the idea that you are going to conceptualize a character whose internal conflicts have never been conceived of before, really is pretty slim.
Yeah.
You know, and I don't think there's any problem. I think on the villain side, when you're talking about antagonists, we touched on this a little bit in our episode on villains, but certainly there's you know, to the extent that DMs are putting on their NPCs, their villains, you know, what have you, almost the exact same process I think can apply. A big place in pop culture, or at least in, let's call it narrative culture, whatever form that's taking. I think for DMs, I think at the heart of what we do at the table, when it's all boiled down, we are conflict brokers. We are producing conflicts in the world. Now, you're not just doing them by fiat. You know, if you've given any thought to your world and if there's any, what's the word I'm looking for? If there's any continuity in your world, then there's motivations for why these conflicts are arising.
Right.
But all manner of narrative, literature, film, video games, I mean, just are jam-packed with interesting conflicts. And just as you said, you don't have to just drag and drop that exact conflict, but I think a big part about what we put on the table that drives anything is conflicts that need resolving or need exacerbating or need, in many cases, the players do a fine job of introducing their own conflicts. But but fundamentally, if what I put on the table is you're in an idyllic little logging town on the far edge of the realm, the ale is flowing, and you haven't heard a whisper of discontent. The world is yours. And you guys go, okay, well, you start digging around. And if every place you're digging, trying to find some way to use your skill set, I just go like, no, the loggers seem content. They're not overworked. It seems like they unionized a few years back, and you know, that's whatever.
Well, there we go. We got to break. We got to break those unions up.
Smash them up. And there's a beautiful example of the way that actually, you know, like you don't always have to go, hey, here's your next crumb to go solve a problem.
Right.
The players might see something about the world that you didn't intend to be conflict-ridden.
That's what we do, is we take the beautiful world you create and try to mess it up.
Smash it up. Just smash up my beautiful unions.
It is Tuesday. But
so I think conflict is to kind of the same extent where you can kind of graft character archetype. We can graft conflict archetype onto the DM side.
And I was going to ask real quick. I realized I said Harkonnen. That's because I grew up with the 1980 film Dune, and I understand it's Harkonnen. I'm sorry about that. But where do you go for inspiration? Like, do you have a favorite, like, do you have a favorite book series or a movie series that's like, you just love plucking out little ideas from? Or do you have hodgepodge?
I think it's a hodgepodge, because I think it tends to be oftentimes when I'm looking to grab something, it's I've narrowed my scope pretty well. And I don't know that how often I'm actively going, man, I need XYZ, and I go looking for it, more often than not, I'm consuming whatever that media is, and I'll go, holy crap,
that would be awesome.
And then I put it in my pocket, and then at some point I revisit that and go, how can I work? That's
so true.
A really, really good example from the Game of Thrones franchise. I just remember being blown away by this sequence is when now I'm gonna botch all of my names.
Welcome
to
hell, buddy.
But if I'm recalling correctly, the Ramsey boy has been captured and is being tortured.
Oh, that sucks.
And I mean, just what's playing out is just horrific. I mean, they're so many forms of torture going on, and one night, spoilers, I guess, if you guys haven't.
I haven't watched it at all, so it's a spoiler for me.
I'm definitely going to spoil it for you,
Sweet.
but I also, you're not going to have any idea who I'm talking about in 2 minutes. So,
you're good.
but there's a sequence where a rescue is mustered, and they bust in and they unshackle him, and and he's like borderline unconscious. I mean, he has been through hell, and they're bringing him back out. And they get back outside, and he realizes it's all a ruse.
Oh, that's brutal.
No one. And I remember as I was reading it, and just going like, "Oh my god!" Like it stuck with me so deeply. And I remember going like, if ever I have a sequence where there's a player who's been captured, what could be cooler than running this like side by side sequence where the rest of the party is enacting a rescue, and so say you're captured, by your appearance, they're coming to save you. Only when they bust the door in,
surprise,
the room's empty, and there's something, or whatever it is. But that juxtaposition, that sense of a totally different kind of the psychological torture being imparted on somebody, and so it tends to be the act of consuming it, and more so like sideboarding stuff and going like, ooh, I love that. Ooh, I like, rather than going to seek it out. That's not always the case. But with media, with narrative media, that tends to be
I totally agree with that. That's what I'm thinking. It's not like when I'm trying to create something, I might be like, oh, what would, for example, my next character, I would like him to be like a father figure, right? I'm not going to be like, oh, I wanted to make him like Obi-Wan. I might be like, now that I know that, I'm gonna reference it.
Every character reference is gonna be okay. Let's do this.
Star Wars now.
Let's get down to
it. but there's so many examples of the older, more experienced adventurer helping out the younger people.
Right.
I mean, that is such a trope.
Grizzled old veteran kind of.
Yeah. I mean, so it's not that I'm like, oh, I want to recreate Obi-Wan. It's like, oh, I like this side of him, and also this. It's like you're saying, sort of an organic process.
Right.
Really,
Well, and being able to graft in. I mean, I think there's so many good examples of characters who kind of narratively serve as a mentor or as a to let's say a less experienced or a newer, whether it be an adventurer or in the case of Star Wars, kind of a coming of age protagonist under those circumstances. I guess many he was a mentor to many people beyond just Luke. But
though I don't recognize anything but 4, 5, and 6.
Oh, okay. That's it. I'm glad to know you're a purist at least.
No, I enjoyed the. That's a lie. I know it's 4, 5, and 6 for me. Wow, we
might be burning it down. We could be burning.
What
it
else
down.
could I say is controversial?
My
favorite Doctor Who is
no. Stop it. So I mean, I don't. One avenue that we didn't really touch on, but I think a lot of, we don't need to dive into it deep because I think a lot of what we already said applies. There are some nuances to, I think, the video game space.
I was going to bring it up
because it's an interactive media, and that medium, I'll say, is one step closer to the TTRPG experience. Like, let's say a video game RPG. Many of the same mechanics are at play. It's not the same experience, but and so obviously there's a closer mirroring between Skyrim and I know a lot of people are going to be like, don't compare Skyrim to.
I'm going to say that.
Well, but the only reason I say is between Skyrim and TTRPG than between a movie about Skyrim.
I understand what you're saying.
You know,
and you're right, but I think a lot of people might draw that comparison, and I agree. I haven't, but people are saying that. I totally agree. They feel like, oh, I want to recreate my Skyrim character. The reason why is in Skyrim, you are the ultimate. You can be everything. Head of the Wizards Guild, the Mages Guild, excuse me. I haven't played in so long. I feel bad. The Brotherhood. You can be everything.
Brotherhood, hands down, best narrative line in the entire game.
It was really good. I really liked it.
good.
Isn't that weird? What's it, Cicero? Is it Cicero? Yeah. Anyway, and the Night Queen. That's so cool. But but you can do everything. And in D&D, you need to, I feel like you're part of a party and need to accept your limitations.
Right.
And it's not all about your character. You are one person in the dialogue. So I totally agree that can you think of any? I can actually. I can think of a video game, but I'm going to bring it up later because it's so good in another category. But
all that to say is, I think because the video game experience has become substantially more narrative. I mean, Pong as compared to Skyrim, a little more narrative.
Oh, what are you talking about?
Pong did have a pretty riveting twist. And
you twisted the dial?
There you go. That was the ultimate combination of dad jokes. But by nature of, so I think in many regards, you could draw any of those narrative elements that we were talking about. You could also draw any of those conflict elements out of, virtually any video game. But I do think it's your first opportunity to start pulling at the mechanical. There are times you can acknowledge a cool mechanic that can translate to the tabletop space.
No, for sure.
And
don't throw out the baby with the bathwater. All that. Absolutely.
That pivots over to, I think it's a reasonable transition. I don't want to cut you off in that space.
No, I feel like we've done a good job.
To the
roast me in the comments if I'm wrong.
Roast them. To the kind of the mechanical side and it's. I would actually say when I actively go looking for something to where I go like, there's an itch that I'm just not scratching with the rules that I have in front of me.
Okay.
Even if I ultimately end up homebrewing a solution, one of the first places I go is to virtually any non-D&D system. I mean, I know the 5th edition space and kind of what they've handed me well enough to know what it will kind of do well and what it will struggle to do. And almost immediately pivoting out to, and I think as a reference point, Drive-Through RPG, which is basically if you're looking to get anything, they do a ton of print on demand. You can get PDFs, you can
gotcha.
But basically a huge platform for independent.
Links
TTRPG.
in the description.
Yeah, links for everything for this episode shall find their way into the description. But through Drive-Through RPG, a really cool way to not only support independent contributors, whether they're making stuff for 5th edition or making completely unique systems, but I have definitely found, and the two that I was going to highlight in this episode, mainly because they really have been scratching the itch that I've had with regard to kind of the 5th edition space. And I've touched on Blades in the Dark a number of times.
We played
right. We brought the clocks into.
That was an interesting moment. I actually really enjoyed it, and it's always fun to pick your brain after because I was wondering how what we did was it what you thought we might do.
No, not. I'm not going to say much more than that, but no, I was actually a little bit surprised. Like the clock progressed a fair, but you guys kind of made a concerted effort very early to just go.
Yeah.
To we're not going to mess with any of this. We're just going.
Right. All those breadcrumbs you laid out, all those hours of work.
But the thing is I honestly don't know how it would have looked differently. But for everyone at home, the clocks which is a phenomenal mechanic built into
a visual representation of shit.
Yeah, and it's and the rules do a really elegant job of displaying all sorts of ways you can use them. This is coming out of Blades in the Dark by John Harper, which is a fantastic system for running heists.
Yes.
And the main reason that I've been looking kind of in this direction is because I know we're going to be heading to the Sword Coast, and I know that there's very likely some kind of seedy underbelly of the city hijinks, and that this system does that so well.
Yes.
And that's kind of my whole point with this segment is D&D is this, people may not like this verbiage, but D&D is kind of this vanilla thing. It's just, here's Dungeons and Dragons.
Roast Tom in the comments.
No, but what I mean by that is you know that it's going to deliver a fantasy experience, whether you want that experience to be kind of low level and gritty, if you want it to be high fantasy, but you have this kind of box that is kind of anything you might want to do kind of in this fantasy space, but it's not really specialized for running very specific types of experiences.
Right.
And very talented people have put a ton of thought into those experiences.
Mm-hmm.
Blades in the Dark being a great example. If you want to run heists, I cannot recommend highly enough. That's a book you need to look at.
As I've played a little bit of it, it's super fun. Highly encourage you to include that in your game.
I guess second and third, and these I'm going to go really quick just because I am a big fan of horror, and in the horror context,
fucking hate horror.
I know you're not big on horror, but specifically kind of sci-fi horror. I think there's there is a system called Mothership, which is kind of a riff on if you were wanting to play an Aliens game, you could do that. But it basically is kind of that deep space horror vibe. Some really awesome mechanics in there for kind of stress and panic and
very cool.
All cool things that, I don't need to take that whole system to which is a great system, but I don't need to grab the whole thing and go, hey guys, for this next segment of the campaign, I need you to all learn Mothership. No, I can just go, ooh, I love the way that they run stress and panic. I want to bring that into my game. And now maybe you're in this alternate, whatever, this some horrible aberrant place, and now I've uploaded these mechanics.
Well, it sounds like that's an organic process, just like the narrative. Like
it's very much that.
Yeah.
That.
So you're not like, I guess you could be like, I read this really cool system. I want to shoehorn it in my game, which I could understand if oh my God, that's so cool.
In some cases, it's so well done. You're like, why would I change it? I mean, clocks I effectively just dragged and dropped in. But, I didn't drag and drop clocks along with the setting, along with the fact that now you're doing a heist. Like, it can be used in so many flexible ways. But like I said, it's really just a nod to those really, really talented, really creative individuals who are producing amazing content.
Right.
And even if you don't have a whole separate game group that you can run dedicated Blades in the Dark that you can run, there are so many great ideas out there in the ethos that you can bring to your play group and integrate in a really, I have found, near seamless way. I mean, it really doesn't have any.
If you wouldn't have told me that, I would have known because I just know the system of D&D. But if you're just like, I came up with this kind of idea, I wouldn't have questioned it. It worked very well.
I thought about stealing the idea, but then I was like, nah, John Harper better get credit for this one.
Good old. Yeah, no, you're good.
So that space, other systems, other rule sets. I'm not going to go into any detail, but just a nod to back to Dungeon Coach as well, because again, in the process of kind of thinking and planning, as you guys have been spooling up an army in the campaign,
which I need to hop on. Anyway,
that naturally has led me to thinking about larger, more grandiose, scaled out, scoped out combats. And big shout out to Dungeon Coach, because the mass combat rules in Alcander's is exceptional, and another great example of an independent production that, while it's made for 5th edition,
right,
it's clearly not in the WotC ecosystem. So
and I give you shit for calling it vanilla, but my gaming background, that's exactly what it is. You have the modders who come in, and a lot of times, like, you will rediscover a game through mods, and it just adds such
100%.
I can't some ways I can't even imagine playing the game without those anymore.
I can't imagine doing another run of Skyrim without some kind of mod.
I only played it on PS, and I know.
You disappoint me in so many ways.
Yes.
No, but I like that analogy. I mean, even if I mean, I think by most everyone's account, Skyrim was a phenomenal entry into the video game RPG space.
Yeah. Stop re-releasing it, by the way.
Yeah. We get that. Maybe
we get it.
We've had a couple flops.
You did a good job. Proud of you. Let's do something else, please.
but you're absolutely right that some of the longevity of that game is owed directly to the modding community.
Yeah, 100%.
And I think that more or less the supplemental material that's released directly for any edition, or the satellite releases that aren't intended for these, all kind of serve as great mods that we can plug in to enhance in so many ways. And this is really, I would actually say, it's one of the cornerstones of our channel. Is this aspect of
our mission,
looking beyond what WotC's handed you, because there's just too many talented brains crunching on this.
And how many Kickstarters blow up?
Oh yeah.
So obviously there's the community has hunger for that, which just is a beautiful thing. I think it's wonderful.
Yeah, and it's amazing that there's people out there who are finding their livelihoods being able to do that. So it's cool that people
100%
are supporting that.
And for the player side, again, I don't really haven't experienced much beyond TTRPGs, beyond what you have fed me. I still go back to video games, and to find a video game for like more the mechanical side, it's really hard, especially in this day and age of video games. It's really, really difficult. But there's one that I think there's two that come to mind.
Okay, all right.
Actually, there's three, maybe four.
Okay, apparently every video game is going to be serve as a great example.
So
how does Mario Kart fit into this?
Fucking love Mario Kart. But I'll start off with like for exploration and like thinking how to use what you have to available to solve problems. You know what I would say is one of the best computer games? The old Sierra games. We're talking Heroes Quest, Space Quest, King's Quest, all the Quest games.
All the Quest games.
Goblins as well, like all those point and clicks.
Really solid. One I'll add to that list. I don't know if you ever played it. It's think identical by process, not by tone and tenor. It's a game called Sanitarium.
Never played Sanitarium.
Phenomenal point and click. I actually went back and played it as an adult, and especially some of the audio is pretty cheeseballs.
Yeah.
But a really interesting, same kind of deal. Is thinking about kind of this environmental puzzle solving kind of.
And if you've never played Heroes Quest, I don't know if you've ever played Heroes Quest.
Yeah, I have. Yes.
Okay, so the first one. I've played so many times. Absolutely love
Have you
game.
played it again as an adult, recently?
Yeah.
Okay, because I always wonder how, because it's been ages since.
Well, the thing is like, I don't know, because I played it so many times. Well, actually, what's cool as an adult is like those games, those old point and click games. You never get, because you can keep track of your score. You never max it out because you always miss something. So then nowadays you can just freaking look up on some internet and you can like max it out. So I've done that and that's super fun. But anyway, so Heroes Quest and all the Quest games I think is excellent for exploration. I don't think Skyrim, Mass Effects are all really great games in there, but I don't think I would list them as good.
I'm not sure that they're good I think they define the border between a computer or a video RPG and a tabletop RPG.
Maybe it's as close as it gets, but if I was like, hey, if you want what's the closest, I wouldn't go there. The old Fallout games 1 and 2 are absolutely friggin-tastic.
Yep.
I still love playing those games. Of course, I hack it and give myself all 10s in all of my abilities, but because that's how I play games.
Thank God there's no way for you to just like fuck me up and
well, the thing is I play at a table with other people.
Well, right.
If it was just me and you, I'd really try to break the game.
I'd win.
Yeah, you would.
If it was just me and you, I would win.
In the universe. XCOM.
I'm guessing this is a Battlefield and a
100%. Yeah, tactical side.
Mm-hmm.
Not
really
so much
like
the base. I played UFO Defense an ungodly amount. 2, I unfortunately didn't get to play much. I played a little bit. And
it was good, but it wasn't. It was. I mean, I think it was a reasonable successor, but
yeah,
I mean, anyone who played the OG, it was
I
like
love
so
that
good.
game so much, especially at the time. But for one, you're getting turn-based. You're getting action economy. You only have so much movement. You only and so many. I think it's called time units. But learning the environment was so important. Cover was so important.
Yeah.
That really, like, if you want to learn some strategy.
Yeah, that's a huge thing to ingrain into any players.
Yeah.
Is
If you can find, but XCOM 2 is also excellent.
right. Yeah, I think it serves a lot of the same.
Yeah, and I think the best that's ever been done, Divinity 2.
Oh, really?
I think so.
So, I don't think you have not played Baldur's Gate 3 yet.
Is that the new one?
Yeah, that's
no,
the
I
new
haven't played the new one.
The reason I ask is because it's by Larian Studios as well, same people who did Divinity.
Okay.
And there's so much about it. And I 100% can be on board. I think I haven't played Baldur's Gate 3.
Mm-hmm.
I've heard that I've heard a number of people tout that it's as close as you get to the same level of freedoms you have it in an actual tabletop space.
So I ignorance here.
But I think a lot of that, I mean, there was plenty about Divinity 2 that gave you a broader sense of freedom than many of my favorite games. The Baldur's Gate franchise growing up was huge for me. But the Baldur's Gate franchise assumed you were playing a very by the books dungeon crawl.
Right. More of the,
Yeah. I mean, there was no point where you were like, well, my weapon broke. I want to take my belt off and use it as a whip. It's like, I can't say for sure if that's something you can do in Baldur's Gate 3, but I know that's the type of thing that they were touting.
Gotcha. Well, and that's not what because that's more the narrative side. For me, it was the combat side. What I really gleaned from that is how to work as a party. That comboing things like,
oh my god, I got killed so many. I was playing the tank for Amanda, who was a caster, and I got blown up by friendly fire so many times.
Yeah,
but that's one of the prices you pay of just being the badass on the front lines.
I
mean,
understand.
You have a little bit of a sense.
I've
of that
built my character specifically to withstand the punishment of the casters, but but no, I like, because again, I think those, I would say Divinity 2 is probably. I haven't played Baldur's Gate 3, but it was like, oh, this is like.
I didn't know that you had played Divinity 2. That's cool.
Very little. Me and the Harry play. Of course, then life happened, and we couldn't really get.
You mean you don't get 6 hours a day to game when with a baby?
No.
Oh. What are you doing?
I know, right? What's more important, a living child or a video game?
You've got a crib, don't you? She's fine.
Just put on. No. But so that's what I would say is for mechanical side. But throwing it back, there are so many tools that we can utilize at the table.
Yep.
And that can either help with immersion, it could help with streamlining, it could help with ideas that are more physical. Like you can. Do you have any that you like come to mind for you? Because I know I have quite a few.
You're talking about actual tools to utilize at the table.
Yeah.
They're not necessarily physical tools, but I think they fit your category. So
okay, go ahead.
Yeah, 100%. One that I will mention because it's a relatively new tool in my arsenal, but I have been loving it both as a tool to be deployed at the table, but I found it to be one of my more enjoyables. There's a zen to using it when I'm doing like prep or just brainstorming.
I know what you're talking about because you go ahead.
Yeah. I mean, I just the episode on DM and the PM just released earlier this week.
Yeah. I know what you're talking about.
And that tool is the Durf Dice app. The links will be for that as well. But it is effectively a really cool way of creating random tables. Not just creating, but utilizing them. It's the same interface. You can deploy those tables at your table. But the coolest part about the application is because effectively being a user of the app means you are part of this Durf Dice community. By making your tables that you create public, everyone has access to them. And that's what I've actually found less the making tables,
It's finding the other cool tables.
but more finding content that that my mind has not touched.
That's
it's
awesome.
Totally unauthored by me, and just rolling through it and going like, wow, I love that. And then exactly like we were talking about with film and anything else, grabbing that and going like, I love this tavern description. I love, and it so many of the entries just give you this taste where your mind can't help but go like, oh, but what if that is actually the puzzle piece that leads to this? What if that's the, all of these things. So the Durf Dice app is 100%, it's a digital tool, but it is 100% something that I have been and will be getting a tremendous amount of use.
Yeah, you're showing it off a little bit, and I was just like, how much brain space are you freeing up? By like, what do you got to offer at this tavern? Let me pull up this menu for you.
Right,
that was insane.
Well, yeah, and the coolest part is for me to be able to go boom, and I pop that menu up, and unless I really care about what they're serving, and there might be times that I do, like let's say there's a famine going on in this part of the world. Well, then maybe I've predetermined that they don't have, the guy's like, well, we don't have much, but I can cook you up a rat if it, or whatever. And doing everything in my power to go like,
to really
this town needs help, guys. But if it's just a tavern, wherever, and I love that you touched on that freeing up of bandwidth, because the phrase that John used, the creator of Durf Dice, and he used it in the episode, is tedious creativity, and it's and it's a perfect summation of, you want to know what's on tap, and I don't want to just go, well, dwarven ale and some elvish vintages on, and I can give you a robust list of food and drink. You want to know what 50 entries are in the library that you just went to? Done. You want to know what I mean? So in so many ways, and the beauty is as that app becomes more and more popular, there's going to come a point where you may never have to write a table again. Again, you certainly can if you want to.
Right, specifically for your campaign. But that is so amazing. Again, it just frees you up so much.
Yeah, it's the scalability of that tool is really cool. So I really enjoy that. I do have another, but I want to kick it back your way. Tools, anything that...
Yeah.
On the player side, I know that you're a pen and paper guy, but I was going to say D&D Beyond is officially owned by WotC now, so it doesn't count.
And I don't.
I know you're not a D&D Beyond.
I'm not. Well, and if they sponsor us, I will 1,000% sell my soul. But I did use it. We
love 1D&D.
All hail 1D&D. But when I was Ariel's character, when we did the body switch thing, I did use it, and there were some cool things about it. 100%.
No, 100%.
But I'm a pen and paper guy. One thing that I always like having, so I don't have to reference it, like I like having cheat sheets. So important information you might need. I have all my class abilities printed that I can access. I don't have to dig through my player manual or all that stuff and reference. Right. Oh, this is in Xandathar's, and no, it's all printed right there, easy to find. There's so many websites, and I'm not going to mention them, but
but a ton of third-party tools to better organize yourself as a character.
But I really recommend like a condition cheat sheet. Just like, this is what frighten means. So that way when you're like, hey, how do I break this grapple? You don't have.
Otherwise, your DM will tell you whatever they want it to mean
right,
in the
and
moment.
No, and and they're gonna
be like, it means you run off the nearest cliff, hoping you die a quick death.
Yeah. That's pretty much how it goes at our table. But like, just cheat sheets. I have a whole. I have a cheat sheet. Like, this is what constitutes as a standard action. You can do these things with your standard. This is what an interaction is. This is what. How much fall damage is. I have that on a cheat sheet.
Right.
Like,
all of that stuff is huge. And the nice part too is it's great. I mean, I know that your need to reference those is probably pretty slim because you've been playing as long as you have, but
it's just nice.
I have seen, the dividends of that level of organization pay off when there are newer players at the table and you have a player who's really well organized. Not only are they going like, look how like a seasoned vet runs their character. Look how well. but also, hey, they need to know that full damage. Hey, they need to know. DM probably knows your full damage, but a bunch of that other stuff.
Yeah.
Hey,
and what I did is I made when we started this, I made notebooks for well, I don't know if I made notebooks, but I made the cheat sheets.
I never did.
Well, because I don't like you.
Actually, I did get one, so I was.
Damn it!
Yeah.
Right, but I just like, hey, these are so everyone at the table has these, so they can all reference it.
Yep, and yeah, I think that's hugely powerful. Having those tools at your disposal, and like I said, there are so many third-party free resources to do that, but it's a Google search away. I will throw a link down in the description for one of those suites, but but it's just
it's so easy to find.
Yeah, for anyone who is feeling like maybe they're a little less organized at the table than they'd like to be, there are just a ton of tools at your disposal. I have one, and it's one that I'm really hyped about, and I will probably never use. And I'm going to say right out of the gate, I'm very grateful that I will never have to use it. You run audio at our table, and consistently, I have been taken aback by kind of the way that the audio has reinforced what's going on. So you crush it on the DJ front. The reason I mentioned this tool in particular is because if there was no one at my table to do that, shout out to all those players who are taking something off the DM plate.
Yeah,
serious. I mean, it's like it kind of like we're talking about with the Durf dice. You have a certain amount of bandwidth. The more bandwidth you're freeing up so that your DM can just worry about running a great game, the better your games are going to be. I mean, it's kind of a pretty simple equation, but the application is Sirenscape.
Okay.
I don't know if you have.
I don't know this.
It is a suite specifically designed for DMs. I believe it's actually the suite that Critical Role uses. I think Glass Cannon might use it.
So can you stream it?
I believe you can, because I mean, when you buy it, it's jam-packed full of all sorts of audio and stuff. But you basically can create one-click scenes built into it, and so that. You could be, okay, you're at the tavern, you're having some drinks. And so maybe I've created a scene that is the tavern scene. And when I click on that, I can have 4 different tracks. One's kind of a laughing and clattering of glassware kind of track.
Right.
Maybe a bard's playing, this kind of thing. Right. And then as that's going on, someone busts in and goes, whatever, they're screaming, something terrible's happening. I can click down to my next scene track, so to speak.
Man, yeah.
And that moves into, the sound of a kind of a terrible echoing roar. The music changes to something a lot more
Holy cow.
tense. So a really cool cool suite, certainly something for those DMs who are not fortunate enough to have their own private DJ. But I wanted to give it some recognition because I've looked at it on a number of occasions, and literally the only thing that's kept me from going like, I'm getting that, is knowing that I don't have to.
Yeah.
And like I said, if I could choose between a really, really cool tool but to take on more workload, I'll take just worrying about everything else. Right. But it really is a cool tool, and the link will be down in the description for that. A great audio tool, and I don't think audio can be overstated at the table.
Well, it's one of those things, like watch a horror movie with muted and watch it with music, and it's a totally different experience.
Right.
And as far as like, hey, what do I do? Spotify. There's Brian May. He has so many playlists, is who I use. I haven't checked in a while. There might be other people, but just seriously do like D&D mood, and it'll be like, here's sad music, and you'll be drawing from like video game soundtracks, like the best of the best. And if it doesn't fit the screen, the scene you want to play, hit next and just find one and then stick with it.
And I will say, I don't know how much of it ultimately comes down to your experience and kind of having things organized the way you like and doing it versus just how well curated those playlists are. I don't know. But again, there's been so many times, not just myself, but literally the whole table is going like this, like it's like a scene.
I'll never forget when we were playing that one shot and you're like, a beach, and I had to like, I have a beach. And I turned to the beach soundtrack, and
it literally you could hear the surf breaking.
I was like, that was awesome.
And I almost was like, fuck you, dude.
We're working together. We're a team.
But no, it was we will put the links. I don't know if there's a singular link to get to his profile.
I'll have to look.
However, but we'll organize those links. I have been blown away. Like I said, I can't even speak to it. That's how hands off I've been on the audio. But whatever links you provide me, we'll pass those along. And at our table, anyways, they have delivered just phenomenal options.
I appreciate that
for sound. So, I got
so many more resources.
Oh, you got tons of tools?
Yeah, I'll go through them really quick.
Yeah.
Spell cards. So nice. Holy crap.
I guess when I was thinking of spell cards as part of the organization side of things, but keep
going.
Okay.
Yeah. In that case, I might just be able to lump it all. But yeah, spell cards are so nice because if you're, again, this exact same thing with the character abilities. You're digging through all this stuff. Ariel, who's a wizard, man, holy crap.
All you full casters out there.
Full casters.
Get the spell cards.
You need spell cards. Otherwise,
get the spell cards. There's no excuses for those 9-minute turns. Get those spell cards.
It saves so much time.
Yeah.
And just makes everything better. She has a system that's like crazy. Like she has tiles. Like these are the prepared ones. She takes it to another level. But that's what you kind of have to do. Physical representations of your limited resources. So spell slots. Maybe you're like, oh, Cheetos are level 9 spells. Do what you got to do. I don't know.
Whatever you put down, just make sure that they are very appetizing, because then I've got a lot less work drained in all those resources. Just because if you eat one of them, it's gone. You don't get no resupply. That's a housework.
That's what instead of menus, some people will use candy. When you kill it, you get to eat it.
You get to eat it.
That's kind of cool reward. But
would you trade it for the actual minis?
No,
I know.
Holy crap!
I wouldn't either. I love minis. I love them so much.
Freaking awesome. Which is another great, also like a physical representation of what you're finding. I am very fortunate that my DM is one of those guys who's like, you know what I'm gonna do today? I'm gonna build a table with a flat screen TV in it. So we have all those maps and that is. I'm a visual guy. You can describe to me all day long with your words. And you're gonna throw out another thing. Sweet.
I have 2 more that I fully intended to touch on, and I'm glad that you re-sparked it.
Yeah. So for me, being able to have the battle maps, which might be what you're talking about, and being able to see things, really like the combination of you describing it and for me to see it, really just takes it for me to the next level.
Yeah, 100%. And what you actually sparked is this one of these lands in the music side. S Panther in the comments was specifically asking about the audio design for Rakish Rovers.
Oh goodness.
And
okay.
And so I responded back saying I wasn't really thinking there was going to be much of an interest in that content, but he had some very complimentary things to say, which was nice.
That's nice.
So in the spirit of audio, since we haven't pivoted too far from that, a huge amount of that audio comes from a number of sources, but a huge amount of it comes from Monument Studios, both their Fantasy 1 and Fantasy 2.
Yep. Great resource.
I'm a particular fan of Fantasy 2, but
you buy it and it's yours, so that way you can stream it. You don't have to worry about that, which is huge when you're streaming.
Yeah. From a streaming side or from doing any kind of publication side, it is all royalty free. It is all
which is so nice,
YouTube compliant, so you won't get flagged on that. So Monument Studios there, and then by way of combat. Again, not all, but the vast majority of what we are running, we are running a physical tabletop, but with digital battle maps. So inlaid TV, and the vast majority of those, both of these are recognized on our official website, but come from Dynamic Dungeons.
Yep.
They have a Patreon. Again, I'm going to have my work cut out for me getting all the links.
I was about to say, this is going to be a long description, dude.
It's seriously going to be a lot of links, but the reason that I want to put all these links in, and I even want to just talk about any of these, is because they're literally given all the options out there. And don't get me wrong, like I look at Dwarven Forged Terrain, and I start salivating. It just is unbelievable.
Yeah, for sure.
But given all of the factors, I love the physical terrain. I love it. But I can create in a fraction of the time, I can create a digital battle map asset or I can utilize one of the pre-made ones, like I said, through something like Dynamic Dungeons.
How many, like thousands? I mean, you got
so many of them. Anybody who is moving to a digital platform, you likely have already looked into this. But Dynamic Dungeons Patreon link will be in the description. Highly recommended. Just unbelievable value. As a patron there. So sorry, I'll pitch it back to you. Those were my other two, and they're on our official gear for our page. So I almost took them for granted, and I apologize to both of them for that.
Actually, that was it. That's pretty much what I got. Anyway, that I like physical representations of things and cheat sheets. Any way that you can streamline things, because especially combat can get really dragged down really fast. For example, my character, he is specialized in off-turn attacks. That is really freaking confusing. So I have a cheat sheet that says, hey, if this condition happens and this condition happens, this happens.
Right.
And so it just streamlines everything.
Yeah.
So that's what
Yeah, 100%. I think that, like I said, I know that there are so many other great places that people can draw inspiration from.
100%.
Leverage cool tools.
And please leave in the comments. We learned so much from the comments. Like, you're like, hey, have you not checked this out? Please put that in the comments so we can check it out.
Yeah. In fact, that is my signing off point. Is I can only espouse it as of the start of the Modern Myth channel. Mm-hmm. Legitimately, I think one of the greatest non-D&D resources that I have at my disposal is all of you people in the comments, whether it's recommendations for different systems to check out, different rule sets, tweaks on 5th edition rules, homebrew stuff, cool products, cool live streams, cool. I mean,
live streams. We didn't talk about live streams.
Live streams are definitely a resource.
Oh, damn.
100%. But I guess we just don't value them enough to make the episode.
I feel bad. I feel bad now because they've definitely. Anyway,
well, they actually probably are worthy of a discussion. But I guarantee there's going to be plenty of you out there who have your own outside the D&D ecosystem places that you draw from. I know many of you live outside the D&D ecosystem.
Yeah.
So something I would be curious about on both accounts, whether you live inside that ecosystem or outside of it, where do you go that's not your home base to bring in new inspiration into your game to keep things fresh? Or is that a faux pas? Do you are you a purist? This is my home. I'm a purist. No shade if you are. And everyone do their own thing at their own table. But I'm really curious to hear about, mainly because I want to steal them up so that I can use them at my table. Drop them down in the comments. I would love to hear from everybody. Any thoughts that you have on this topic or really anything D&D. But I'd love to hear where you guys are getting your inspiration that isn't from your official source books. Anything to say before we...
No, love you guys. No.
I love you too. I'm just worse with just saying emotional things and being just genuine and as a general rule of thumb. But
I think sign off.
Yeah.
World is yours.
Wait, we're gonna do a world is yours as a sign off? That's a whack saying.
You came up with it, dude.
Let's keep
That's
going.
Your brainchild.
Let's keep going.
All right. Let's go. You know what's an interesting hobgoblin addressing his troops.
Right then, hey you louts. He's fucking. This is gonna get a little Warhammery, but he's fucking humies. They think they're gonna take the best of the riches, gonna take the best of the loot, leave nothing but scraps for me and my boys. Not today. Not fucking today. Today, boys, the world is yours.